everyone, Rochelle here, and today I want to share with you all some of my pet peeves when it comes to crocheting. I have a list, so every once in a while I'll look over here and check my list, make sure I'm getting them all in, and while I'm talking to you all, I am going to be working on a project. I am working on a slouchy hat. It's a Fan Pride slouchy hat, and so I'm going to be working on this while I tell you all about my pet peeves. Okay, and these are in no particular order. And also, these pet peeves aren't so much what other people do, it's about what I do that just drive me crazy when it comes to like working with yarn and making things. So the first thing is when I'm working on like an afghan or a blanket or even like a large infinity scarf and I start to get hot underneath it. Because like when you're working, you know, you do a few rows and it's fine, but then those few rows go from this to like this, and you know your project, it starts to lay on your leg, and after a while of just working, like you start to get hot underneath it. And like that's why, you know, there's just some projects that you save for the winter time. Like, you know, I would not want to make a large quilt or a large afghan in the middle of June unless you're going to really turn the air conditioner up, because as you sit there and you work on that blanket, you just start to get hot, and next thing you know, you have like, you know, whisked the blanket off and you started on working, you know, on a smaller project. You just lose your motivation. And so if that's ever happened to you, let me know. You know, you're working on something and then it just starts to get too hot, and next thing you know, you've thrown it off and you're working on like a cotton project or something. So that is definitely a pet peeve of mine. Another pet peeve that I have, that I do, and I guess these are pet peeves, but they're also, I guess you could say, bad habits, bad crochet habits. But I have an awful, awful habit of losing stitch markers. I lose my stitch markers everywhere. Like literally, I have like 2 of these left. It's a shame. I lose them in my friend's vehicle. I lose them in the truck. I lose them everywhere. I lose stitch markers. Just, it's kind of ridiculous. I think I'm gonna go and try to see if I can't buy like a bulk load of stitch markers, like 100 of them, because I am just so terrible at losing stitch markers. I don't, like, they fall between the seats and just everywhere. And I'm telling you, there's a black hole in my sofa cushion that stitch markers go and never return, because I can never find them again. Okay, another pet peeve of mine that I just don't like is using small yarn and small hooks, because they cramp my hands up. And it's like I find these patterns that are so nice, and then you look at the pattern and it wants you to use an F hook or an E hook. I'm telling you, it's not that I can't, it's just I don't enjoy going under a G hook. Like, and even that's pushing it sometimes. It really is. You know, if I'm making a hat using a G hook, sometimes, you know, my fingers start to cramp up. So just, I don't know, when it just comes to, it's not so much like tiny yarn that bothers me, but it's just the tiny hooks. Like, I would love to start, you know, using crochet thread, because I have some and I wanted to make some crochet jewelry, but just the thought of my hands cramping, I don't know, you know, we gonna work on that, okay? So another thing that I have a major pet peeve about is yarn barf. Oh my gosh, like I was working on a loom knitted hat. Oh, and by the way, this is the loom knitting set that my husband made me. And so anyway, I was working on a loom knitting set, and I went to pull out the yarn, and literally like half the skein of yarn came out in one big yarn barf. In fact, I'm going to enter a picture of it right here. Okay, so you all just saw that ginormous yarn barf. Oh my gosh, it took me forever to wrap the yarn back around itself, and it was just a nightmare. yeah, I don't understand why the center pull in yarn is so difficult to find and why you have to pull out most of the skein to get to it. I don't know. Crazy, crazy, crazy. It just absolutely drives me nuts. Okay. Alright, so this next one, I think that this next one bothers knitters and crocheters alike. Stop calling crochet knitting. Okay? Two needles versus one hook. 2 needles versus 1 hook. There's a difference. It's like I might be crocheting on something. Oh yeah, my grandma used to knit. I don't knit. Like, I would love to learn how to knit. Like, loom knitting is the closest thing I know how to do with knitting. And if you all watch my goals video, I really do want to learn how to hand knit this year. I think hand knitting is so cool. But I don't know how. So like when I'm working like this is crocheting. Okay? I mean, if I'm working and you see 1 hook in my hand, I'm crocheting. And I've gotten to the point now where, like, I don't even correct people. You know, they say, oh yeah, I see you knitting over there. I just go, yeah, I sure am, yeah, right, okay. Because I don't know how to knit. This isn't knitting. But I understand that some people identify, like, if they just see yarn, they think knitting. And not that it upsets me, it's just, you hear it so much, you know. But anyway, like I said, I know crocheters and knitters alike can relate to this, because I'm sure there are some knitters out there that'll be out there doing their thing, and then somebody walks up to them and go, oh, is that a scarf you're crocheting? And you're like, no, I'm knitting. Yeah, I'm knitting 2 needles. Or like, I know some people knit with 4 needles, which is crazy. But yeah, so that is a major pet peeve of mine, is people calling crochet knit. And I'm sure people who knit, they feel the same way about people calling it crochet. But I don't think that's something that's ever going to go away. People are always going to get it confused. And, you know, I look at it like, well, at least they're interested in what you're doing. At least they're interested. And you may even be able to teach them a little something, you know? So yeah, that's a common pet peeve among knitters and crocheters alike. Okay, so let's see. Oh, another funny thing about myself is that I can't do a project knowing that I made a mistake. Like, for example, take this hat for example. Right now I'm on row 7. If I look back at this hat and I see on row 3 that I skipped a stitch, I have to rip it out. Like, I can't just, oh well, I'll just let it go. Like, I have to go back and fix it. I will rip it out till I get back to it and fix it. Like, you know how sometimes at the end of a row you're supposed to have maybe 21 stitches. If I get to the end of the row and there's only like 19 stitches or 20 stitches, I can't do an increase just to catch up my stitches. No. I have to rip out the row and do the proper 21 stitches the way it's supposed to be. I don't know. If there's a blaring mistake in my work, I have to go back and fix it. Now, you know, sometimes you don't catch things and you may have already finished it off, and there may be a way that, you know, you can go back and fix it. You know, some kind of way. You might have like a hole in your work and you can go back and fix that. I guess that's different, but like if I'm in the middle of working in something, I always check myself every few rows. Like, I may do 3 rows and then I'll go back and I'll check it. Do 3 more, then I go back and check it. So that way I don't get to like row 21 and then there was a mistake at row 7, because I don't know, like, I really don't even know if I'd want to go back to that point and fix it. But yeah, like, I have to go back and fix mistakes in my work if I see them. Yeah, there's been a few times where I finished a project and I look back and I'm like, oh goodness, I left a hole or something. I usually try to go back and take extra yarn and fix it. But for the most part, I check my work every few rows just to kind of keep on top of things, you know, so if I do make a mistake, at least I don't have to rip out so many rows to correct the problem. Okay, now, also, when I first started crocheting, I used a lot of, you know, Red Heart Super Saver, and I had a problem of, like, you know how you have the magic ring in the middle and you pull it really tight and then you knot it and you weave it in. Okay, I had a huge problem of pulling my magic ring too tightly to the point of where my yarn would snap. Like, I would snap my yarn, and then I was only left with like an inch of yarn to make a knot with. That is just a nightmare. It really is, because that is not enough yarn to really make a good knot. And then weave in, like, you only have like an inch of yarn to weave in, then you're worried about it coming back out. But yeah, I used to pull my yarn too tight and I would snap it, and so that's something I've really worked on now, that, you know, when I pull my magic ring, I pull it just enough to close it so you can't see a hole there, and then I go ahead and put a knot in it, because if not, you'll make a major mistake. Okay, let's see, another thing. Oh, I have a major issue with people touching my crochet work, especially when I'm in the middle of working on it, because I don't always put a stitch marker down. And so, like, I have a major pet peeve of when people, like, touch my work. For example, I could be working on something. You know, like, I'm working on this, and all of a sudden they pick my work up and they're like, oh, this is so nice, oh, this is so pretty, and they're like ripping your stitches out because you didn't have time to put the stitch marker on it before they grabbed it, and so then they've ripped out your work. Like, I've had that happen before. Like, I may be working on something, and then in the middle of me working on it, they're so fascinated by what I'm making that they pick it up really quickly. And when they do that, they pull out stitches. Y'all, if you're admiring somebody's crochet work, ask them, oh, may I see that? And then you're like, oh, sure. Okay, but first, let me put my stitch marker in. Okay, now you can see it, because, you know, my stitches aren't going to go anywhere. So yeah, that is a major pet peeve of mine, is when people just pick up my stuff without asking, you know, because I'm usually in the middle of working on it and it's not, you know, it's not secure, and so then, yeah, you risk, you know, my stuff being pulled out, which is so not cool. Okay, another pet peeve that I have, and once again, knitters and crocheters alike have this problem, is when let me start over. A major problem that knitters and crocheters alike have are manufactured knots in your yarn. Like, you're just crocheting along and all of a sudden you come across a knot in your yarn. And the thing is, like, when they tie knots at the factory or wherever your crochet or wherever your yarn is made, they're knots, like, if you tug on them tight enough, they'll pull right apart. So then you have to go back and tie another knot and then weave that in and then continue your project. Like, oh, manufactured knots and skeins is just a major pet peeve of mine. Okay. Now, this one also, I know knitters and crocheters can relate to, is when people start talking to you while you're trying to count your rows. It's like, I'm working on a project. You clearly know I'm counting. You know, I'm silently counting in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they say something. And then you lose your count. Or either, like, let's just say you're working on a project and the project requires you to chain 100. So you're chaining your project, you know, and then you get to like maybe chain number 50, and then somebody starts talking to you and you lose your place. Then you have to go back and start your chain over again, or go all the way to the back and count. That's why there are some projects I have that I just start by myself, and then there's other projects that I have where I don't mind, you know, talking. Like this, for example. I've already memorized it. It doesn't require a lot of counting, so you know I can work on this no problem. But yeah, it's just, and then like when you look at them like, okay, don't you see I'm counting? Then they catch an attitude. What? I'm counting. Oh my goodness. But I try to avoid that as much as possible. And usually like, usually it, I don't know, it's not that bad. But you just have to learn how to reserve certain projects when you're by yourself and others when you're not. Because sometimes you can lose your place, and I never try to put myself in a position where if somebody does interrupt me when I'm counting, that they would mess me up. I try not to put myself in a situation like that. So usually if I am counting a row around other people, if they bother me, it's okay. Because I'm not so far along that, you know, it messes me up. Usually like I might be counting a row, and the most it may have is like, I don't know, 70 stitches in it, and I count by 5. So if somebody interrupts me, it's not so bad. But if you're making a blanket and it says chain 200 and you're around a group of people when you start on it, most likely going to happen is that you're going to get to like chain 110 and somebody's going to interrupt you and you're going to lose your place. And you're probably not going to be very happy about it. Alright. Oh, here's one that once again knitters, crocheters, people in the yarn world can relate to, and that is finding a pattern only to find that the yarn has been discontinued. I mean, why in the world would you put a project on your site for people to download just to have underneath it, oh, this yarn has been discontinued, and then they don't even offer a substitution for it? I'm like, what? Because sometimes I see like really pretty projects that I want to try, and the project calls for a certain type of yarn, and usually, you know, you can substitute yarn that have like similar textures and similar lengths and things like that, and similar thicknesses. But there's some yarns out there that just cannot be substituted. You know, it's just when it's discontinued and it goes, then it's done, and you can't get it again. And even if you try to make this, project using a different type of yarn, it just doesn't come out right. So yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, maybe if a yarn is discontinued, maybe some people still have that yarn, and so they can still make the pattern. But I just wish that if you're going to offer a project that has yarn, that's made with yarn that's discontinued, at least offer a substitution. Like, oh, well, we've discontinued this yarn, but you can also use such and such yarn from my line also. Like, that would be a great help. Okay, so the last thing that I have, that just something that drives me crazy when it comes to like crocheting, is crocheting with black yarn or any dark type of yarn. Oh my gosh, I cannot see my stitches when it comes to black yarn. I have these glasses that I use. I have these glasses that I wear when I'm crocheting with black yarn. Ta-da! I love these. I got these from Lowe's. They are fantastic. You can use them when you're traveling, when you're in the car driving, riding at night, if you're in a dark room, somebody's dark house, even during the daytime. When you're crocheting with black yarn, these are super helpful. And what's so cool about these is that like you can turn them on one light at a time. So maybe you want to turn this one off. Maybe it's just dark on this side of the room. Or maybe it's just dark on this side of the room. So yeah, they are really, really cool. I really do like them. So yeah, so those are all of my crochet pet peeves, and please leave in the comments section below some of your pet peeves. Even if I covered them in my video, please leave in the comment section below some of your crochet pet peeves and knitting pet peeves and loom knitting pet peeves. Like, yeah, I have some loom knitting pet peeves too, you know, because sometimes I'll be loom knitting and one of the pegs on the loom knitting, like either the round loom or the square loom, sometimes like the pegs can be loose. I've even had some pop off. Yeah, like my tension when it comes to loom knitting is extremely tight, so sometimes it's hard for me to pull it off of the peg. So yeah, I definitely have my loom knitting pet peeves. And I really didn't prepare any for this video, but like thinking of it off the top of my head, yes. Another thing is like having to use chunky yarn or either 2 strands of 4-ply yarn. Using 2 strands of yarn for me is difficult crocheting, and I know it would be latch hooking, so I usually try to stick to chunkier yarns. So yeah, those are just some of my loom knitting pet peeves. But anyway, I'm gonna go now. I hope you all enjoyed this video. As usual, my eBay, Etsy, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest links will be in the description box below. And once again, don't forget to leave comments in the comment section below, letting me know what are some of your pet peeves, and if you agree with any in the video, or if I've forgotten some pet peeves, let me know about those too. Okay, well, I hope you all having a super awesome day. Bye!